So that's what we really call as, I mean, the Kia is it's a platform. We call it as really talk to your data, with Kia. So it's basically you just ask questions like this, like, hey, show me the daily trend of policies by intermediary type, not limited to any specific standard set of questions. Your question is basically a combination of, whatever data attributes you have. So you just frame it in the way, which makes sense, and then the application is able to understand it, access the data, come back with the response in both text, voice, as well as, visuals. That's what we really call as a conversational AI approach. Right. So what exactly is Kia? I mean, if I have to give a simple, it's almost like your data buddy, or rather, it's like a virtual data analyst. I'll just quickly talk about, how we train data sets into this and how it's able to respond back and all that. But basically, it is virtual, and this application is completely white labeled. What I really mean by that, even though our platform is called Kia, our installations are go by different name, whether it is Oscar, Ginger, Twinkle, whatnot, right? So it's a white label software, and or rather smart data analyst, which you can embed this within, with any of your other applications and all that, right? So any questions so far? I know I've been ranting a lot about this. Any questions, any comments?
Please feel free to add your questions on the chat so that we can answer them.
Great. So yeah, it's almost close to 45 minutes since we started. Let me just quickly show you more about this platform, as well as I'll also show you more examples in terms of about the applications on the conversational AI approach and all that, right? So see, I mean, in this example, which I showed some time back, in terms of whenever there is an information need, how we really talk to a knowledgeable person, or so that part we are just we're trying to abstract it with a software like this, right? Where now you have an ability to ask questions to this application, right? So at a very high level, this is what we're saying. Hey, if I have a data set like this, the data set could be in any form, whether it is a simple Excel sheet, CSV, or any large databases. How do we really train this, or rather, have our application, be trained on this data, so that before it can start responding to questions like this, right? So it goes through a very simple step, in terms of training your data, and then we do have an application which helps you achieve that, including when we talk about a language interface, right? See, it also brings its own challenges, or rather, nuances in terms of vocabulary. I mean, because there are people refer to the same term, by different names. Say, for example, I may call it as a profit. Somebody else could call it as, a margin. So how do we make sure that, hey, both of these really mean the same thing? Or rather, it is a state here, maybe a province, it means the same thing. So how do we understand, rather, somebody could refer to a location, city, all these stuff. I mean, in fact, it even goes back. I mean, if you take some specialized fields like engineering or healthcare, it is a lot more complex there. In fact, we work with a healthcare company. So there the challenges are, say, for example, there could be a drug name called doxycycline. So some of the doctors refer to a doxy, some of them refer to a doxycycline 10 mg, 10 milligram. All these variations still need to be understood by their application before it can even respond back, right? So there are I mean, so we do have ways to train the model with all these variations. At the same time, I mean, there is also, we have a low code interface which lets you do this without writing much code. I think I'll show a demo of those things as well, right? So basically, as I said, all you really have to do is train your underlying data set wherever it is, right? I think on this platform, and then it starts responding to questions. So I mean, again, as I said, I mean, not just these. We support a wide variety. I've just shown some examples in terms of what some of the databases which we support, but absolutely, even there are installations where, so say for example, they already have um, the Power BI data set, or it could be a Tableau workbook. Even it can even source data from there, and then train our models, and then start responding to questions. So wherever the data is, the enterprise data is, as simple as as I said, from your CSV or in simple Excel sheets to any large enterprise databases, data warehouses, lake houses, wherever it is. I think we can source the data, train our models for it to answer, right? And and also, I mean, if you take any typical enterprise setting, the data is not static; it evolves over a period of time, right? I mean, almost near real time, right? I mean, so even this kind of, we do have ways to achieve this through data pipelines. You can, the training, or rather the continuous training, can happen on scheduled ways, either it's daily, or, on whatever the time frame is, or even real time, so you have an ability to push the data through streams, and then, use that to train the model, right? And so there are quite a few applications and variations of it, which we have. I'll also show this quickly. I just briefly showed you this chat application. And so we also have something called as a widget, search widget, which you can embed. And there is also a mobile app, primarily, for the users on traveling, as well as, it's just like how you pick up your phone, talk to Siri, or you just chat with a friend. I mean, you can ask those questions even on a mobile phone. So this is the ecosystem. The one, the widget, search widget, the chat, and the mobile app. All these are to get the for the training needs. How do you really train, or rather get an application up and running? Right. I think that's where it really helps. It is a complete low-code framework. I mean, absolutely, the magic kind of happens without the user writing a single line of code. All those visuals, whatever you saw there, it just comes out of the box, right? Its ability to crunch those numbers, understand, convert it into a query, respond back in visuals, voice, and all that. Everything kind of happens, out of the box through this low-code interface. Have just highlighted, some of the features, especially there are a couple of one, which I really want to talk about, or rather highlight, is around the security aspects of it. It has very well integrated a role-based access control module, where you have an ability to define roles in terms of who really gets access to this data and all that, including ability to manage even PII data. You can define rules in terms of, hey, these are sensitive information, these should not be exposed back, or rather, who can really see this. All those data governance modules, or rather, your ability to define data governance rules and all that are, built in within this application. And as I said, one of the critical element, or rather, element of today's data analytics project, it's also around the glossary. You have an ability to manage the glossary along with this, including, I told you, there are definitely, in a language interface world, people do refer to the same attribute or the term in multiple ways. So how do you really maintain a vocabulary? How do you really add synonyms? All those are kind of, I'll just quickly show that as well. All those are available as part of the application, right? Basically, the primary reason, rather the biggest advantage of this low code framework is time to market. For you to get an application up and running, it's absolutely no time. If you have the data readily available, it's you can have an application up and running in like just few minutes. That's what it takes. Again, a quick summary of the features. And so in summary, what does it really, our platform kind of brings is around, it's a simple conversational interface, with your ability to ask questions in English, right. And the goal, as I said, it's primarily how do we really simplify the data access, just like, how we use any of the traditional search engines, or the many of the messaging platforms we do today, right? So that is our whole objective. Can we try to replicate a similar user experience for data, right?